Hello everyone and welcome to another CAD video. In this one we're going to talk about the Revolve tool and how it can be used just like the Extrude tool to produce more interesting 3D objects. And really this is just another tool in our collection to produce different things that we're aiming to make and really stretching our 2D sketching abilities into 3D, but not just along one plane or two planes, but around a curve or around an axis. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a sketch, and this is just going to be an arbitrary sketch, but just to kind of see the point. I'm going to use a front view, so I'll select the front. I'll use a new sketch. I'll choose this selection, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the origin point as a center point. As long as you have some axis, you can always draw a line, and that's fine, but it's very convenient often to do a line on the axis. So I'll start off by choosing from an origin straight up, make sure it is vertical. We can see the constraint there is set up, and the rest of my line I'll just go ahead and choose as arbitrary. I'll go to the right some distance. I'll go up at an angle, I'll go out at an angle, and then I'll use a arc, so I'll finish my line. So those are two lines. I'll go to the create menu. We can see we have a lot of different arcs. I'll do a 3-point arc. First point, the second point will be about this high, and then the arc will be this far. And we'll adjust this after the fact, but we'll go ahead and keep this. And then I'll do another line forward this way, and I'll snap it to here. And that's it, and I'm going to go ahead and finish with my lines, but now I'm going to go ahead and constrain it and dimension this just so we have this flat. I'll make sure this one is constrained to be horizontal, so now it's stuck this way. This one I'm going to use a dimension tool to give it a particular angle, so I'm going to say this should be 60 degrees. There it is. The radius of this circle, okay, if I let them do it, there it is, will be 8. I will make a construction line that is going to be tangent to this circle. So from this point this way. So then I'll keep my construction line and I'll go ahead and hit escape. It's not tangent officially, it is horizontal. The line is horizontal, but to make sure these are tangent, I'll go ahead and use the tangent constraint. So I'll select the line, I'll select the circle, and there it is forced, and that stretches this. This is already horizontal, and then the rest of these are not constrained simply because I should have an angle between them. So I'll go ahead and do another dimension between these two, hitting D on the keyboard. And so this is 109. I'll go ahead and put this to 110 degrees, and there it is. And we can see that it's only the danger here is that I can drag these things and mess this up. So I should put some dimensions here. So I'll put this one to be 10 exactly. That's locked in place. I think that's all I really need. Maybe I should pull this in because now this does kind of tilt this way. So I guess I maybe want another line that is going to be a construction line, so this way. And I'll go ahead and finish it, and then I'll do the same thing. I'll do a tangent, the circle and the line, and there we go. And that way I'll be a little bit more trapped in my placement. There it is. Okay. I think that's all I really want. I'm going to go ahead and finish my sketch. And so here's where the new thing comes in. If we look at this, this is in fact a 2D sketch, but it is on kind of standing up on this plane. And what I want to do is spin it around an axis. And the reality is, when you use the Revolve tool, you can pick any line as an axis to rotate around. And so I might have had the idea of having this line spinning around this one, but I could also spin it this way. So we'll do it both ways just to see what it looks like. And again, it depends on what you're aiming to do, but we have a lot of flexibility in making this happen. When we choose the Revolve tool, we have two different things we have to select. First is the profile. It has to be a closed shape, and so you can see it already selected my entire sketch for me. And the second thing is what axis you want to do this on. So it gives us the default X, Y, and Z axes, and it also gives us any lines. And also I'll choose this horizontal line first, and we can see what happens. And you can see by default it spins at a full 360 degrees. And so you can see we got this kind of interesting pattern quickly if I select this one. If I choose it again and I choose this inner line, the one that we had before, so I select this line or this axis. Actually, let me do it one more time. Revolve, and now I'm going to choose this line, and we can see now it's coming this way. So it depends on what we're trying to do. So I'm going to stick with this one and go from here. And again, we also have the ability to not do the full thing. So if I do partial, it does 360. I'm going to go to the home view just so we can see it. I'm going to go ahead and put it to half of that, 180. And I can put any number I want. So if you decide you want half or a particular amount, I can do 45 degrees. We can really get this to our control however we think is appropriate, however much we want to revolve around an axis. And so I'm going to go back to being full. But the idea is it gives us a lot of flexibility. If we do partial, we could of course choose, do we go one direction, do we go two different directions independently, do we do it symmetrically? And this is pretty much similar to how Extrude works in these same components, right? So the same different directions or rules apply from extrusion and revolving. So I will go back to full. So we have a full circle. And then the last thing I really want to do is show that we can also, now that we have an object that's been revolved around, it is a body, we can easily edit, continue, or cut out things or continue to cut things out. So for the first thing I'll do is what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this top. Actually, I won't even really select the top, I'm just kind of showing it. But I'll create a new object. And so instead of making everything from a sketch every time, we can also sometimes make some default shapes. So I'm going to choose a sphere. Notice it gives me that kind of flat top surface. I'm going to choose the origin. And if I go like this, I'm going to make this is too big. I'm going to go ahead and do, let's do about half that size, 15. And select cut. So now you see I've quickly scooped out a hollow bowl, which is about 15 millimeters in radius in all directions, and that kind of scoops out this thing. And the last thing I'm going to do, I might want to cut ridges into this bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to home view. I'll go to the front view, which is a flat view. I'll make a new sketch on this plane, which is the same plane we worked originally. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to project, I want this angle, I want to draw along this angle. So the line, this line here that represents this angle that was revolved, that's the one I want to project into my new sketch. So I'll go to the create menu, project include, project. I can select this thing. Click OK. Notice it gives us these 2 points. It gives us these lines because they're obvious, but this line is not along. But I can very easily make a construction line. Hitting L for the line key, for line tool, I'm going to use the line construction option, and then just make a line between these 2 points, and there it is along that edge, which is exactly what I want. So the next thing I'm going to do is let's go ahead and make another set of lines. I'm going to go and cut, I want to cut rectangular ridges out of this, so I'm just going to roughly draw some from here to here. I don't want these to be construction lines, so I'll turn these off. They should be solid. I'll zoom in a bit. I want this to be a right angle. I'll keep this. You can notice it gives me right angles by default. Here's another right angle. And the last one, I did it kind of freehand, so it's not exactly a right angle. So what I'll do to make this happen is really, what's really important is that this line and this line are parallel. So I want it to be cut exactly at that angle. So if we look at our constraints, I can use the parallel constraint. So if I select this one, and there it is. You can see they're parallel. And I guess I could try to, I don't know if it's going to help us if I use the perpendicular. It's kind of unnecessary because this is parallel, and these is a right angle, which implies that these are right angles. So there's no need to actually do this perpendicular constraint. And last but not least, I'll use our rectangular pattern tool to duplicate this a couple times. So I'm going to select our 4 lines, and then now the key difference is by default it uses the X and Y axis, but I want to actually go along this line so we can choose the direction. I can choose my construction line, and now we can see these are angled. I'm going to use my spacing. I'm going to do a specific amount. I'm going to do, I think, 5 duplicates, and let's try 3 millimeters apart. That's way too much for how big this is, so I'll do this actually, let's do 4. There it is. And then, you know, what I realize is maybe this is too far, so I'm going to do a distance. I'm going to click OK. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, there we go, 4 millimeters. I'll click OK, and then the last, sorry, just forces the quantity, there it is. And then I realize I want to do a distance. And maybe I should have done this before. Let's see if this affects all of them. So let's do this as 1. There we go. Actually, it moves them all, which is fantastic. So it's not cut too deeply in. And then now that I'm done with this, I'm going to click Finish. I'm going to use this same, I'm going to select all 4 faces of this sketch. And again, just to kind of show us, you can see they are flat along that angle. And I'm going to use that same revolve tool this time around. But when you do a revolve, I have to choose an axis again. I'm going to do that same axis. So unfortunately, I can't easily grab it, so I'm going to hide this body briefly. It's going to complain, but I'll bring it back after I've selected it. And so right now, without the body, it looks like it actually creates 4 rings, which is not what I intended to do. I actually want to cut these out. So if I bring the body back, you can see they become a cut, and that's the default behavior. So when I select these 4, I'm going to click OK, and we've scooped out those 4 lines. And the end result is this object, and again, this is not really a thing, but you can see that we have a lot of control and kind of merging the tools that we have together. The revolve is essentially the same as the extrude, but around an axis, and that's a pretty powerful tool that we have for our purposes. So I'll see you in another video. We'll continue learning more about these different solid tools.